News, views, voices of the global Indian community. India abroad.
Namaskar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be participating in this year's National Conservatism Conference here in Washington, Desi. Let me, at the very outset, I don't see if Dr. Yoram is here. Oh, you are here. Let me thank Dr. Yoram Hajoni and his team for inviting participation from India in this year's conference for the first time. Friends, I'm aware that some colleagues asked Dr. Hajoni, why are we here? And I must reveal something to you all. Some colleagues back home, my colleagues asked me, why am I there? We all revel in our misinformation and misconceptions. Let me take it up first. Why are we here? Firstly, we are here because we have huge respect for Dr. Hajoni's valiant efforts in upholding the flag of conservative nationalism under most trying circumstances. Secondly, we are here to tell you that we share most of the ideas that you, the NATCONs, consider dear: God, religion, tradition, family, patriotism, nationalism. And finally, since yesterday, we have been hearing about the struggle story of the conservatives in country after country, from Hungary to Poland to UK to France to USA. 10 years ago, had we attended a similar conference, probably a similar sob story you would have heard from us too. But today, we came here to tell you about the success story of conservatism in India. The story of the defeat of the left liberal Marxist radical Islamist cabal in India. Friends, first about this national conservatism. India is a deeply religious country. Conservatism is in its blood. The Pew Research Foundation's one survey suggested that almost all Indians, 98% to be precise, say that they believe in God. Roughly 80% in most religious groups say they are absolutely certain that God exists. To borrow the phrase of John Micklethwaite, India is, quote unquote, the right nation. Similarly, nationalism is also nothing new for us in India. Unlike in the West, there is no pejorative meaning attached to that word. In fact, our entire independence movement against the British colonialism is dubbed as national movement. Interestingly, India's main opposition party may not always stand for the values that we, the ruling party, stand for. They definitely don't call them as conservatives, but they call themselves as Indian National Congress. Nationalism, conservatism are not the other in India, like in US and Europe. India is national and India is conservative. Friends, that is why we prefer to call ourselves or distinguish ourselves as cultural nationalists. As the name suggests, We derive our national identity from our ancient culture. Some call us Hindu nationalists. We don't mind that label as long as it is not misunderstood as religious nationalism. It's not. We stand not for theocracy, but for thermocracy, in which the word dharma represents universal values that ancient India stood for. Something like the 10 commandments for the Christian world that Yoram talked about yesterday. In short, cultural nationalism can be understood as the Indian equivalent of national conservatism. Friends, like you all, we too had to wage many battles against the left liberal ideology for decades after independence in 1947. In fact, one of my colleagues, Dr. Swadesh Singh, is sitting here. He called that ideology as the Nehruvian consensus. A liberal, socialist, secular, globalist ideology which dominated India's ruling elite during the initial decades of our independence, championed by the first Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. Our religiosity was at stake. Our cultural identity was at stake. Our national unity was at stake due to that Nehruvian socialist secular ideology. But what we did was unique. We didn't try to take head on at the political level alone. Instead, we built a strong grassroots popular conservative movement in India. Through decades of hard work by organizations like the RSS, a strong grassroots movement of resistance to liberal globalism was nurtured in our country. And it took some decades, but when an appropriate movement came 10 years ago in 2014, that social conservatism nurtured for decades on silently at the grassroots was simply transformed into political conservatism. Cultural nationalists are today not only a dominant social force but also a dominant political force in India today, led by Mr. Narendra Modi's government. Friends, I am not exaggerating when I say that 1 billion Indians stand up for this idea of cultural nationalism today. 1 billion, it's a big number. Even our political adversaries, the Congress party and others, whom we in our Indian political parlance, we call them as secular nationalists. We are cultural nationalists, they are secular nationalists. Even they cannot go against this popular sentiment of cultural nationalism anymore. Let me give you a very recent example. In January this year, a massive temple complex came up at Ayodhya in North India, marking restoration of India's cultural and civilizational glory. The old temple at the birthplace of Hindu god Ram was destroyed by invading Mughals in early 16th century. Like how millions of Jews yearned for the restoration of the temple on the mount in Jerusalem, 1.4 billion Indians yearned for centuries for the restoration of the temple at Ayodhya. They too waged many battles. And we succeeded in bringing the temple back through a judicial process in 2019. And when its consecration happened, Prime Minister Mr. Modi was himself present. That temple construction represented a new conservative consensus in India. And you know, the main opposition party in India, the leaders of the main opposition Congress party in India, Their objection was not about whether it was secular or not. But the objection was, why Modi for consecration, why not we? Friends, that is new idea of India. A quintessentially cultural, patriotic and nationalist. Let me tell you, this is not an exclusivist idea. Not against any religion nor any community. It is the reassertion of the conservative soul of our ancient nation. After we secured the absolute political mandate 10 years ago, we used this conservative consensus to take back everything that the Nehruvian liberals took away from us several decades ago. We ended socialist protectionism and promoted free market economy. Of course, in the last 20 years. I'm not just saying 10 years. From the 11th position a decade ago, today India is catapulted into 5th or 4th largest economy in the world. We reclaimed our universities and academic bodies. We took back the media space. And we recently launched a new education policy to rebuild our academic curriculum to teach conservative values to our future generations, something that most of you are worried about in your countries. Friends, it's no longer fashionable to call oneself a liberal or a socialist or a secular in India anymore. It's no longer fashionable. On the contrary, it is cool to be a Hindu. It is cool to be a Buddhist. It is cool to be a Jain. It's cool to be a person of religion. It's cool to be a conservative. It is cool to wear your religion and culture on your sleeves without any fear of anybody criticizing you. The left liberals are cornered from all sides in our country today. They are in deep distress. They once controlled prestigious institutions like Jawaharlal Nehru University for decades. But today, scrambling for a foothold in some corner of the country. If they don't find it, they are coming to your country, they are coming to your universities, they are coming to your media. I have an appeal to make to our Trumpian conservative friends. Don't go too hard on this immigration. Let them come in. Long live your First Amendment. We have a few more left in our country, we want to pack them off. But please remember, next time you find an article about India in one of these liberal media in your country, the NYTs, the WAPOs, talking about authoritarianism, oppressive atmosphere, democratic backsliding, etc., just laugh it off. It is the wallowing of these desperate left liberals. Don't try to look at India from that prism. Because they tell you that we are Hitlerians, we are fascists. We are actually great admirers of the Jews and their national struggles. But we are portrayed as Hitlerians and fascists to you. But do you know that they portray you as racists, white supremacists, and Christian fundamentals to our people. So don't take them on face value. Ladies and gentlemen, on a serious note, we may not fully appreciate the whole idea of liberal, conservative, this divide in India because we come from a totally different civilizational background. But we share many ideas with you, the NATCONs. Yet there are bound to be a few differences. For us in Global South, conservatism comes with the baggage of colonialism and superiority complex. The trauma of centuries of European colonization and the harsh treatment meted out to our religions, our cultures, and our traditions is still fresh in the minds of our people. Secondly, we are a religious country, but we believe in freedom of religion. India is a land of many religions. At the root of Indian conservatism is the belief that all religions are valid paths to same eternal truth. We do not abhor religious diversity, nor do we insist that everyone should follow only one true religion. We actually celebrate diversity. Our understanding about religious freedom is a freedom to propagate one's religious beliefs, but not a freedom to decry or demonize others. Thus, while individual freedom of religion is sacrosanct, we consider institutionalized activity of proselytism, especially if it is pursued using force, fraud, or allurements, as alien to our worldview. At the same time, we jealously uphold the right of every Hindu, every Christian, every Muslim, and every Jew to practice his or her religion without any fear. Finally, we consider issues like climate challenge as real, and we disapprove of their denial. Ladies and gentlemen, these red lines notwithstanding, I am standing here to express our solidarity with you in the battle for preserving your national identities, religious traditions, and social customs. In the emerging new world order, the left liberals are ahead of us in creating global networks and alliances. They captured institutions like media, academia, and spawned global NGOs. Using those instruments, they created a profoundly negative image about conservatism. They are attacking our national identities. They are destroying our family values. They are ruining our social and cultural fabric.
That's my bag.
They promoted unbridled illegal immigration in the name of multiculturalism, destroying demographic and cultural balance in our societies. Demography is destiny averred August Comte. We realize this hard reality today as our streets are inundated with infiltrators and our social life became actually acutely unsafe. The left liberals took the human rights discourse to a dangerous level by promoting social promiscuity in the name of wokeism, tearing individuals, families, and societies apart. Those who stand up to this mindless menace are subjected to a harsh cancel culture. Ladies and gentlemen, in India, we checkmated these heteropolar forces. We built stringent laws against illegal infiltrators. We tightened the noose around terror outfits and their overground support mechanisms championed by liberal elites in the name of human rights, etc. We put strict regulations in place to prevent global NGOs from digressing from their assigned duties of charity and playing havoc with our social, political institutions. It's okay, we are criticized, we are demonized, and we are disparaged by the global liberal elites. But we dismiss them with all the power a billion Indians give to us.
Yes.
Friends, we are here at this conference to tell you that that power of a billion Indians is ready to stand by our conservative colleagues from across US and Europe today. Let us build a strong global movement for conservatism based on principles of pluralism, inclusivity, and respect for religious diversity. Where our religions feel respected, societies feel secure, and governments feel free to pursue their national agendas. Towards building such a movement of global conservatism, we, a billion Indians, can be with you. We can be behind you. And if you may wish so, we can be in the vanguard. We can be in the forefront. Dr. Joni, thank you for this opportunity. Let me end by extending an invitation to you to come to India in 2025. We will be happy to host NATCON 2025 in India. Thank you.